Thanks to our Patreon members for helping to make this episode possible, and we're now available on all the major podcasting platforms. You can find more information at the links below. All right, ladies and gentlemen, part 2 of our exploration of the impact of Plato. Part 1, I looked at the path of the dissemination of his ideas, and of course I mentioned those ideas quite a bit. But today I kind of want to work the other way around and okay, so we've had all this influence. What does that add up to, and where do we see this? Oh my goodness. So it was layer on layer where, we got it through the Neoplatonists, we got it through the Platonists, we got it through the Greek worldview that was translated into the Greek New Testament, we got it through the way the New Testament was read, we got it through the Renaissance, which rediscovered the classic works and reproduced them, and then the humanists, and then the Enlightenment, and then the Romantic movement, right? They kept reintroducing or re-emphasizing aspects of Platonic thought, and Greek thought generally, but really strongly Platonic thought, and even Aristotle was being read often as if he were a Platonist, even though at the time they were not. They disagreed about a lot. They agreed about a lot of stuff, but they also disagreed a lot about a lot of subjects. We don't have time to go into that. But even the Aristotelian strain of Greek classical thought was read as Platonist. Even some of Plato's works and some Platonic or Neoplatonic works were thought to have been written by Aristotle, which is an amazing error to make. These were good scholars, but it just shows how strongly that emphasis was already in place, even, by the Renaissance, Middle Ages. So, all again, over and over and over again, this is reintroduced and layer upon layer upon layer. And so, where does that add up to? It adds up to all the stuff that we don't think about in our society. That's what I think is great about philosophy in general and about this kind of series in particular, is it's all the things that seem obvious to us, but they just aren't obvious to other people because they're not Platonists. So let's go through, I just want to go 4 of his ideas. We could do more, but they're just, I don't know, where do you stop? When do you start? When do you stop? And it's love, body, soul, rising up to heaven functionally, and truth. These 4 concepts. So 1, love. I don't even know what to say about this. I'm just completely within this face of the wall of cultural emphasis on romantic love as a core social value is, it's so powerful in Western society, in American society that I'm most familiar with, but Western society generally, that it's just hard for us to imagine that other cultures just don't have this. In fact, we think it's bizarre, oppressive, terrifying, awful. But most other Greek philosophical systems, in fact, I think I would say all again, but I want you to say most other Greek philosophical systems, including Stoicism, Epicureanism, view this as the Cynics. Romantic love is seen as problematic. And remember that the opening of the Platonic, of the Symposium, is to say, hey, we don't praise love enough. All of the other gods get praised because everybody sees the values of Athenian wisdom and warlike Mars. It wouldn't be Mars, of course. All that stuff is seen, but we don't see the value of love, erotic love. And we should sing praise to that, right? So the whole invocation of the Symposium is our culture, i.e. classical Greek culture, underemphasizes the value and power of erotic love. And it turns out that every other major philosophical system in the world agrees with that. They're like, no, we don't see we know it exists. We're not, fools. We understand it, but we just don't think it's like this super valuable, centrally important, great thing. And along comes Plato, and Socrates make these arguments that are built around this notion of the centrality of erotic love as a metaphysical principle that leads you and helps you to discover important things functionally. That this is the core, the key to a good life is getting love with this very strong erotic tint to it worked out. And I was trying to think of where you don't see this as. I mean, it's like hard to find places in Western society where this is not. It's just everywhere. I mean, it is just like this emphasis on love and dating and relationships and love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. And right, it's liberatory and all this stuff, unconditional love. We want like that will free you. It's everywhere. And so when you encounter societies, which is to say pretty much every other culture in history, that is like, erotic love. I mean, we get it, but it's also sort of misleading, problematic, dangerous, confusing, disturbing, just not helpful, doesn't help you think clearly, makes you do stupid stuff. And notice this is actually discussed in the dialogue. Oh, lovers do stupid stuff. Is that good or bad? And they're like, oh, well, I mean, they shouldn't do it, but we understand why. And it's very important that they pursue these paths. I mean, that sort of confusion or problematic nature of love is clearly one of the things that's discussed in the symposium, but by the time, again, this is the magic of the symposium, they never resolve this. It's just that by the time you get the Socratic speech and he gives you this like beautiful take on it, and then he's held up as such an icon by Alcibiades that you go, well, what he said must be true. Therefore, hey, let's go with this erotic love thing. Again, this is clear in the Greek because it's just eros, 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 eros everywhere. Everywhere is eros. Like eros, that's the ticket. You want eros. Eros will help you. Directed eros, go with eros, right? Like over and over and over again. And it's like, wow. And so it is unsurprising. Like we say, oh, why is that athlete so good? Oh, he loves it. Why is that musician so great? Oh, they love the music, right? It's the eros that raises them up. It's the love. It's the that passion. We talk about the passion that like, oh yes, they have that, and that's what allows them to transcend ordinary people, right? Love of the game, love of music, love of whatever, right? That is the transcendent element. And I mean, so I don't even want to spend too much time on this. So you look around in society, see if you can find any mention of this. I mean, it's so pervasive. Again, I don't even know how to say it. The bigger thing to argue, or not to argue, but to discuss is that when you look at like a Confucian society and we go, oh, this just doesn't, what are they doing in their relationships? They don't seem to be built around this notion of liberatory self-discovery through erotic love and all. And you're like, yes, that's right. They aren't doing that because that's not how they conceptualize the world. And it's like, oh, but how do they? I mean, it's so weird. It must be terrible for them. And they look at us and like, well, these people are insane. Like, what is wrong with them? Like, it's, that we have a hard time even imagining that you could build a society and relationships and families without having this just mad emphasis on love. And yet, give or take, on average, throughout global history, world history, we are definitely an outlier in this. Platonic notions of eros and love as this uplifting, guiding, life-fulfilling, important, central philosophical principle is just not around. It's generally seen as a problematic barrier, misleading. In Buddhism, it gives you attachment. All these sorts of problems are the much more common emphasis in other philosophical, cultural systems, religious systems. It's Plato who just comes out swinging on this front. And boy, does he really, it's a profound and deep influence, obviously. And yet it's so everywhere, it's so pervasive that we just can't, you just can't not feel that way, I think, in a lot of ways. To liberate yourself from this version and conception of love and outlook for a Westerner is extraordinarily difficult because it is just in the water. It's just overwhelming to even point out how everywhere it is. love art, and, they love, the way you're supposed to love your family. It's loving your family. It's not doing the right things for your family. It's loving them. Like you can be, so this is a whole idea of quality time. Oh, I love my family, and I've just put a lot of passion into the small amount of time that I have with them, rather than it's like, no, maybe you're just supposed to spend a lot of time with them. Maybe that's it. Like there's, it's just everywhere. I don't know. I can't even, again, I just struggle. So, but obviously I'm just repeating myself. You're all perfectly aware of what this means. So I'm going to move along there. But that whole notion of erotic love and love in general as being this universally good thing that helps you in every possible way, Platonism. And if we just stopped there and said Plato had no other influence on Western society, good Lord, that would be plenty. However, he also gave us the body and soul split. Again, not a totally unique, because the Pythagoreans had this to a certain extent. The Egyptians certainly had this to a certain extent, but they did not make it a metaphysical principle in the way that that Plato did, and the Socratic Platonic line. I'm just going to stick with Plato. And, this division, again, is, once again, you just see it everywhere, the whole body image thing. People who say, I'm trying to overcome the body or discipline the body, or the spirit is strong and the body is weak, or the spirit is willing and the body is weak. I mean, that dualism, this mind-body dualism, is so, and soul-spirit dualism is so powerful and so pervasive that, again, it's hard to almost put your finger on it. I mean, it's to me, it's interesting is that almost the entire, I feel like I'm trapped in my body. I've got to overcome my body. Like this whole notion of being trapped in your body. Anytime somebody says that, or if they're in the wrong body, like the whole, what they call gender dysmorphia, I think is, that whole name, gender. This is Platonism, right? That notion that you could be not in the right body. It's just Platonism, because, by the way, it's well documented. Other societies had people who were, who have every possible kind of gender expression, like has existed in every society. It's very well known and documented and supported in Hinduism that different periods in time. Aristophanes is talking about this, but the notion that you could have a spirit in a wrong body, see, this is that interpretation of the sensibility of going, I want to be a different way, and then going, I must be in the wrong body. This is absolutely Platonism. It's so, one could, it's just so shockingly powerful and so shockingly pervasive that it just seems like that must be natural. And to say that it's not natural seems, somehow oppressive or wrongheaded, or this is just the way things are. And it's like, no, the sensibility that, I want to, if I'm want to dress more in a feminine fashion than in a masculine fashion, or how my society is supposed to tell me. That's again, this has been open, documented everywhere, all over the world for a long, long time. But the interpretation of that is, something is wrong, that I have one spirit and one body, and they don't line up. Plato, because you need that concept. If you don't have that concept in your society, you cannot interpret that feelings that way. So much of the even physical fitness and working out, I'm gonna strengthen my spirit, and when I strengthen my spirit, my body will get stronger. And it's the drive and grit and all of this stuff that it's somehow there's two things working. One is the body sometimes, and one is the soul. Sometimes they work together. Sometimes they work against each other. But that the really important thing is the spirit. And this is why, again, we're so suspicious of bodies. One of the reasons we're so suspicious of bodies is the notion that Plato introduces. Again, this is not a strong Christian concept. This was read into the texts of Christianity. But, hello, Augustine. But Plato says the body is fallen. Plato says the body is not good. Plato says that it's our bodies that are misleading us, and it's our souls that we need to pay attention to. And so when people really do start to go, oh, I want to inhabit my body, I want to be in my body, like even that language is Platonic. And then they go, now you're just being, that's too much self-love. You're full of yourself. Again, there's these kinds of language that I always find fascinating. It's like, what should you be full of? I think you should be full of yourself, right? Exactly. Be full of yourself. What better compliment can someone pay you, in theory? That kind of narrative, all of these confusions that we hear and see grow out of this fundamental notion that, again, I know it sounds weird, and I know if you pick and choose one or two passages from Hinduism or from Buddhism or from Taoism, you can go, oh, look, there it is. But this is simply the Neoplatonic trick of reading everything through Platonism. No, if you look at the corpus and the emphasis and the importance of a collection of Hinduism in the worldview, or Buddhism in the worldview, or Taoism, the worldview, what you come up with, and certainly the other Greek worldviews, as is articulated at the beginning of the Symposium, like they didn't believe this stuff at all. They don't. The body soul split. Lots and lots of systems argue quite the opposite. Right? They're like, no, this is a unity. Like you're not, what's the split stuff? Like splitting means misunderstanding. If you're splitting things apart, then you're just wrong. So part of that, then once you get the body-soul split, what you get is this notion of the rising of the soul towards something. What is it rising towards? This perfect, glowing light of eternal, unchanging truth, which we'll get to in the next one. And Bildungsroman, there's an entire genre of novels that's been around forever. It's called Bildungsroman. It's novels of education, in which you get this path where people go higher and higher up towards realization, and then they get the truth, and they, through experience and reason and reflection and meditation, you rise up, and there you are. And what you get to is this perfect insight into the nature of reality. Dun, 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 dun. And, think about films like The Matrix, or the whole vision of going up and entering a white light that you see in culture all the time. You could almost put this down to the whole narrative of self-improvement that goes along with, like, you're something that could be improved, or no. Like, by the way, this is one of this is why Luther is so important, is because he's just like, no, there is no improving you. He said this in, I would say, a negative way. I would like to say I agree with him, except for it's a positive thing. You're not improvable. Like, you're wonderful, you're amazing, you're incredible because you exist. Like, you can't improve yourself, right? Like the notion that whole concept of self-improvement, of which I think you can be well aware that our society is absolutely addicted, is largely, not entirely, but it's largely Platonic. I mean, good gosh, and again, this is what many of the critics of the church during the Reformation pointed out. Like, this is not a Christian idea. This is a Platonic idea. This comes from the Greeks. This notion of again, rising up on levels of self-realization and self-awareness. Now, some people will go that Buddhism has it. Look at the narrative of the Buddha. And again, it's not that there is no hint of this in other systems, because you can see this narrative. Oh yeah, we learn things, we get wiser as we go along. Da, 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 da. However, this is one, again, you don't have the soul body split. So the notion of, oh, you're in different stages of life, that's one thing. Right? Like, for instance, classically in the Chinese world, which is almost unimaginable to us, is they're like, oh yeah, when you're a young person, this particularly for men, but you're a Confucius when you're young, because you need to have a family, and you want to have a career, and you want to establish yourself in the world. And then when you get older, well, you become a Taoist, because that's for the next stage of life. And so it's, right, so notion that there's not you should expect to transform and change. It doesn't make you better or worse. It makes you natural. This is what you should expect. Fish are really small when they're little, when they're born, and then they get bigger, right? Like, why would you not change? Like, shouldn't you expect to change? Isn't this part of a normal pattern? And we say, no, this is a part of improve, that you get better, right? And if you aren't getting better, you're doing something wrong, as opposed to, the normal path you would go on is young people are this way, you get middle age, you get this way, you get older, you get that way. This is the normal path. And then when you get old and wise, this is why wisdom is generally in the Chinese narratives, often in the Hindu narratives as well, associated with age. Because it's like, through experience and through learning and through insight, you grow and you grow and you grow, and you have more time to reflect. And of course, you have more wisdom. It doesn't mean that young people are wrong. It just means they're young. And so having more wisdom when you're young makes you weird, not makes you better. That, right? So again, it's hard for us to even conceptualize that concept of going, but again, paths and ways and change and evolution and growth and transformation and endless cycles and dancing, all that imagery is just filled in the Eastern tradition. You see it all over the place, much more coherent. This notion of a stair step that goes up until you get to a point is Platonic, not Christian, not Eastern, not Epicurean, not Stoic. Like it's Platonic. Here we go. It's the notion of Platonic, bizarrely. And so when you see this notion of like souls rising up to heaven, don't think Christianity, although that's how we read that, think Platonism, because this is a Platonic idea. Again, if you read the New Testament, heaven is where God is. And what happens when things get better, the resurrection, with the redemption of the earth, is God comes back. It's a return. God comes to earth and it's all together. So we've been separated from God. And when he comes back, that's when things get fixed. We don't go there per se. He comes here. That's the difference, right? It's not a place you go with your soul where you abandon your body. It's that God is going to bring our bodies back and hang out with us, and it's going to be great. That's what you get from the vast majority of the passages in the New Testament. Old Testament, very different again, but you can kind of read those together. What's happened is we've read this through Platonism so powerfully that no one believes that anymore. Again, back to Luther. Luther's like, what the hell are you guys talking about? This is just nonsense. I mean, you look at Renaissance Catholic iconography. It's just everywhere. And you're like that. And Luther's going, no, it's not in the Bible. It's not there. Stop that. No. And yet, no. So anytime you've seen that imagery, which I'm just going to say is maybe more than once in your life, even if you're not Christian, I mean, it's nothing to do with Christian. It's just everywhere. The pearly gates. Oh my gosh. It's just so cool. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. So this notion that we rise up through steps, and that those steps are either eventually we get to heaven, or eventually we cure the matrix and we see behind the code, or we get these moments of enlightenment. Actually, we have an entire philosophical movement called the Enlightenment. Why? Because that's, it's the glowing light that's talked about in the Symposium and in other places in Plato that you're shooting for. It's that light of truth. Yeah, so see if you can think of any examples of self-improvement or rising to heaven or perfection, these kinds of things. And if you can find one or two, then you'll know that you're in the land of Plato. And then finally, even though, again, like I said, we could go on with some more, these are the most obvious ones, is our emphasis on truth, which, of course, again, like it just seems like everybody must be concerned with truth, but it's not a very big emphasis in most philosophical schools. Epicureanism was concerned with reducing suffering. They said, if you eliminate all the suffering, then you're in good shape. So try that and run experiments and see what works for you. See, that the almost no emphasis on truth. Stoicism hated the Epicureans, but had actually a similar thing where they're like, oh, you got to be indifferent to the world. You got to focus on yourself. You have to go out and do service. You have to be involved, but don't worry too much about outcome. You have to take what kind, all this Stoic ideals. Confucianism is like, hey, the best thing you can do is just follow this system, and this works out kind of on average for the best for everybody overall. Like Confucianism is maybe doesn't have any concern with ontology whatsoever. The Buddha, the Eightfold Path, it consistently, particularly in the early writing, the texts that seem more attributable to the original teachings, really emphasizes outcome and experience more than any. These are questions that do not lead to edification, right? Like this is one of the great responses is to say, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is false, but I do know that if you follow the Eightfold Path, things will probably work out better for you. Can I prove that? Sort of, maybe. Just don't be too attached to it, right? And so it emphasizes reduction of suffering. It emphasizes reduction of attachment, of course, related to reduction of suffering. So it has some notion of that, but it's not the ontological emphasis on overarching truths that you see in Plato. There is a strand of Hinduism, but of course there are strands of Hinduism and Buddhism that do every possible thing. But again, it's certainly not core to either tradition. But and again, it throws us off because we want this to be an emphasis on truth. Again, if you look at the Odyssey, the hero of the Odyssey, the Odysseus, good Lord, he'll do anything. He's the man of many ways. Like he isn't interested in truth. He just wants to get home. It's not a truth narrative. It's a home narrative. Like you lie, cheat, and steal. Okay, kill some people. Okay, mislead everybody. Okay, whatever it takes to get home. That's what I'm going to do. And he's a hero. He's a hero for that. Achilles is a hero because he kills everybody, and he loves Patroclus, and but not for any particular dedication to truth. And again, Luther systematically just resists this idea. He says we neither know nor can have access to the truth. We are not God. God can do that. We're not God. So just stop with any interest in the truth whatsoever. It's not for you. It's not available to us. And so this emphasis is bizarre. It's an absolutely bizarre emphasis. Again, on most historical, philosophical, cultural systems just don't have this, mad insistence that we're going to find the truth, we're going to know the truth, and that when we do, that truth is going to be eternal, unchanging, and consistent. And a couple of examples there, besides the Odysseus one, is in the Mahabharata. Is it the Mahabharata? Somewhere in the vast collection of Hindu texts, and it just popped out of my mind. Somebody can look this up. I apologize. But it says that even the gods probably don't know where the universe comes from. Like that's not the kind of question even the gods can answer. There's questions that is unknowable even to the gods. Right? Think about that. That this just puts so it's not that they aren't interested in truth and discovering things, but that capital T truth, ontological absolute certitude, is not a value. It just seems bizarre. It seems because the changingness of things is what's emphasized in many other philosophical systems. The notion that things do change and alter and are in flux. If the only certainty it seems in the world is change. And so, unsurprisingly, many systems say, hey, look, what you want to do is ponder change, ponder transformation, ponder the undergoing. And what Plato does, quite specifically, is he says, oh, that's all an illusion. And what's real is this unending, never-changing, eternal world. But most civilizations, most cultural systems for most of the time have said, you look around, everything changes all the time. That seems to be the one constant. So we're going to go with, no, the real thing is the change. But once you say that, you're in trouble. And again, I think that the greatest example of this is science, where science just assumes it's unprovable, and it knows this, right? It's people who think about science know this, but as popularly understood is that, we have to assume that the laws of physics that apply on Earth apply everywhere, because if not, then the universe is completely unknowable. And so you just say, okay, as it works on Earth, the gravity and all this sort of stuff, it must be roughly that's how it works everywhere, and then we can understand the universe. It makes the universe comprehensible. If we don't assume that, if you got 10 miles from Earth and the laws of physics could be anything, then the moon really could be green cheese. You could create a system where it goes, oh no, and it turns out the moon actually is green cheese. But we say, no, the universe is consistent, is coherent. The laws are unchanging. They are universal. They are, etc. But of course, there can't be actual evidence of that. It has to be a principle that's assumed, and that principle comes to us quite powerfully from, by the way, some of the pre-Socratic thinkers, but mostly from Plato. That this world of unchanging, perfect forms, and you get this even in, not even, but again, I talked about this before with theories of mathematics, the founding of mathematics, the coherence of mathematics, and this is why it's so strong in the Pythagoreans, is because they're like, ooh, look, we're discovering absolute rules of the universe. And then of course they found out that maybe parallel lines meet, or maybe parallel lines diverge in infinity. Oh no. And then you find out, hello Cantor, you find out that there's different flavors of infinity and all that kind of thing that researchers find, and you go, oh no, this is looking bad. Or the inflation theory of the universe now is that, well, maybe gravity worked differently, or we had a vacuum gravity when the early universe was young, so it could expand really fast, because that would explain away a lot of problems. But it turns out that once you make the laws of the universe mutable, particularly if in any kind of short, in quotes, time frame, then you can make any argument, because you just change the laws however you want to make whatever your hypothesis look good, and you get stuck in this land of infinite metaphysics, which of course is where Plato wants to live. And that it's such a problem. And so what science has discovered is, if you really just believe in Plato hard, you get great results. It really does produce powerful results, but at the cost of just assuming Plato, right? You're just believing Plato and going with the results, which is great, because it is powerful. It does give you kinds of results. But what it's done culturally is it's given us this belief in the existence of unrestrained absolute truth, that if we get ourselves right, we would have access to it. And so that when we want to know things, we don't say, oh, I want a contextual understanding of the sensibility around some question, which is one way to think about it. But we go, no, I want to know the truth. What is the correct answer? And it's like, a lot of questions don't have an answer. And there's so much context to it. In fact, almost all of the questions we really want to answer in our lives don't have, Plato doesn't help. Like, it just doesn't. It's like, who is the absolute best possible person I could ever date? Like, I don't know, but it's not a helpful question to answer. Like having a platonic form of a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Okay, great. Now go select from the humans, right? Indeed, I actually sometimes think this. I don't know. This is a hypothesis. You guys push back on this. Give me what you think on that. But I do think this is actually one of the problems people have now. Is I talk to people who use these dating apps, and it's like, okay, I've got a dating app, and that's going to let me sort for the perfect partner. And then what they discover, of course, is that anybody they meet or interact with is going to be a very weak subset of whatever their poor conceptualization of what they think might have been a perfect partner, right? Like, this breaks down at every level. And one problem is Well, it's a bad concept to begin with. Like this is one of the beautiful things about Confucianism. It gives you a list of fulfillable criteria, right? You can go, oh yeah, did you meet this? Check, 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 check. Hey, right, we're a good fit. How do we know we're a good fit? We've got a list of 7 very achievable things, and we've achieved them. We know we're a good fit. Like, look, it's an answer to the question that's answerable, not the perfect glowing light version of a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And then, of course, and this is back to the love notion, is that erotic attachment love will lead you to this. And then when I guess this is functionally almost every romantic comedy, when that moment comes when you realize that you really are for each other, all problems go away. Everything is solved. Your life is now whole. And that's why romantic comedies have to end at that moment, right? You can't have another hour because there's nothing to do. There's no conflict. There's no narrative. Everything is solved. It's all good. We're all done, right? Or another way to think about this, I've actually thought about this as structuring of a film. How would you write a film that starts at the end of a romantic comedy? Right, like this is okay. Now the lovers have found, and notice like everything is resolved. So they would just like enjoy each other's company and chat happily for the rest of for 2 hours. Maybe people would watch that. I'm suspicious. That's not what we like. But the notion that once you found the platonic partner that erotic love leaves you to, then all things are solved. This is the magic of truth. Once you've discovered the truth, now you're done. I am the truth, the light, and the way. That is Platonic. That is a Platonic concept that we have underlined, highlighted, circled, and just absolutely we want to know the answer. Of course, the great counter argument of all of this is Taoism, which is why I think I'm always attracted to and terrible at to conceptualizing Taoism, is because the path that is a path is no path. Like that's the one thing you can actually know, is if you know it, you don't know it. It's wrong, right? Like it's just like that kind of truth you don't have access to, so just give up. Don't worry about it. Buddhism, let go of that sort of notion, but no, we're not going to let go of the truth. So again, look around culturally, see where you have the emphasis on the answer, the truth, the insight, the moment that's going to give you everything. That is Platonism, and it's hard to imagine that neither the Greek nor the Christian nor the Chinese nor Hindu, and I always emphasize those because those cover a good percentage of the universe here for us in our little world. Those philosophies just don't have it. It's not there. Certainly not emphasized in this way. So when you look around at your world and you see this bizarre emphasis, or not bizarre to us, it seems natural emphasis on love, body-soul split, this notion of rising up, improving to some sort of heaven eternal that includes this notion of truth. Think Platonism. And if you want to just do an exercise, just go through your day and listen to people, and listen just for an invocation of one of those 4. And I mean, I have actually run this experiment. I actually did 3. I didn't do the rising up to heaven one, but that one is there as well. Love, body, soul, and truth. And what you'll see is commercials, novels, movies, conversations, arguments, radios, songs. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's pervasive. I don't even know how. It's so powerfully woven into our society and culture. Again, it's hard to imagine that it's not everywhere. Well, it is everywhere for us. But then you go someplace else and you go, this place is weird. Why is it weird? Well, it's weird because they're not Platonic. So last time when I said you are a Platonist, what I meant is you are a Platonist. I am a Platonist. We can't help ourselves but be Platonists. So we can learn to think against it. We can try and alter it a little bit, but boy, probably we're just going to be Platonists all the time. So Next time, we'll wrap up this whole reading of the Symposium, but I'm hoping these last two discussions have helped you understand why Plato, and how coming to an understanding of Plato helps you come to an understanding of the kinds of worldview that shape us at a very, very fundamental level. And one of the challenges I think you'll now encounter is once you start getting this thought in your mind, you just start seeing it everywhere, and you're like, oh no, oh no, it does become, to invoke Plato, slightly matrix-like, like you're, oh no, this is just Platonism again, God damn it, like it's everywhere. So that's probably where you're going to end up, I would imagine. So thanks for enjoying the journey so far. Next time we'll have the conclusion, and welcome to the self-awareness that you're a Platonic or a Neoplatonic thinker. I don't know if that's helpful, but it's probably at least accurate.